사회주의 강성국가 건설 위협을 성과적으로 실현하자면 첫째도 둘째도 셋째도 인민군대를 백방으로 강화해 나가야 합니다. 최후의 승리를 향하여 앞으로.
Just in the past half hour or so, we have seen new pictures released by one of the leading propaganda newspapers of North Korea purporting to show the launch of this missile. We have discussed it with one of our leading experts. He thinks they're the real thing. He thinks it confirms what he thinks, and that is that it's based on a missile used in July. The second stage, a stronger stage, a second stage supplying a possible stronger platform for any future use of a nuclear payload.
The United Nations Security Council holding an emergency meeting over the North Korea situation.
We have never sought war with North Korea, and still today, we do not seek it. If war does come, it will be because of continued acts of aggression like we witnessed yesterday. And if war comes, make no mistake, the North Korean regime will be utterly destroyed.
Her last line, we must reverse the course of North Korea. We must do our part to make this happen.
Amy Kellogg is live for us in Milan with the very latest on this. You know, Amy, not only could it hit the U.S. mainland, could hit Europe as well.
Absolutely. Everyone is quite concerned about this, Heather, and the U.S. is eager to have more sanctions slapped on North Korea, but it is really not clear how much more could be done to significant effect, short of China cutting off fuel supplies to North Korea, and that is something China indicated it is not eager to do. It would be an extremely dramatic step, and you could even argue that it would hurt the North Korean people. Now, when President Trump was in Asia last month, meeting with the Chinese president, the Chinese told him that the sanctions so far passed against North Korea were starting to take an effect, but it really does take time, they said. However, of course, it's debatable how much time there is to get this issue resolved. Meanwhile, more images have come out of the Hwasong-15 rocket that was launched yesterday, the most powerful ICBM tested by the regime to date. Close-ups show its impressive scale. North Korea experts say that Pyongyang is now in the elite club of countries with such potent missiles. Kim Jong-un in these photos looks jubilant. You see him having a celebratory cigarette. President Trump yesterday turned Kim Jong-un into a punchline.
Because these massive tax cuts will be rocket fuel. Little rocket man, rocket fuel for the American economy. He is a sick puppy.
Meantime, China, in an editorial yesterday, suggested that the recent U.S. designation of North Korea as a state sponsor of terror may have been a provocation that led to the launch this week, as things had been quiet previously since September. At the Security Council, which held an emergency meeting yesterday, China put forth its usual line suggesting freeze for freeze, no more nuclear testing in North Korea if the U.S. and South Korea stop joint exercises. But Heather, as far as we know, the Vigilant Ace 18 exercises on the Korean Peninsula between the U.S. and South Korea are set to take place next week, with hundreds of aircraft carrying out maneuvers.
Right. Of course, everyone still hopes that diplomacy and sanctions will work, but a lot of options on the table. Thank you so much.
If war comes, make no mistake, the North Korean regime will be utterly destroyed.
Are we potentially heading down that path?
Well, I think it is an accurate characterization. I mean, this is clearly an acceleration of his program. It's the largest missile he's ever fired. It can reach the entire range of the continental United States. So his technology is advancing. He's racing to get this technology as quickly as he can. He still has some challenges out there with a re-entry vehicle coming from outer space back into the Earth's atmosphere. He has to miniaturize a weapon to be able to put on it, and normally to ensure that he's actually accomplished that, there's some kind of atmospheric test. So those are things that are still in front of him. But nonetheless, let's be honest here. He's made some real progress here, and the ambassador, our ambassador to the UN, is an accurate characterization because he is racing to a nuclearized ICBM capability. We are closer to war.
Mm-hmm. Because we're not going to allow him to have that.
We're not going to allow him to have it. But there's a lot of in-between, Trish.
Okay.
And that in-between is just strangling this guy as much as we can economically. They want more sanctions. You know, what we did in the past is we capped the oil export out of China, and we capped their worker market that they did, and many countries participated in that where they hired North Koreans. What we want to do now is just shut it down. We tried to do that with the last resolution, the last UN resolution, but Russia and China wouldn't agree to it. So she's going to try to get them to agree to that now. So what we want to do is just tighten that noose. The problem is that he's racing to this capability. Pompeo says it's likely months, not years, for them to get the final capability. But sanctions, economic sanctions, take time. You don't get the result overnight, and that's one of the challenges.
Well, if we only have months and not years, then are sanctions really going to do what you need them to do?
Well,
if they take that much time.
I'm not convinced China is all in yet, although I think the conversation President Xi has with President Trump is probably very positive in that sense. They both agree in principle, denuclearize North Korea, and that's something that China had never agreed to in the past. So the issue is how? What's the method? Are you moving fast enough?
Do they have the capability, the Chinese, to actually really push the issue?
I think they have significant leverage to do this. And I also believe, I mean, realistically, I mean, let's just say it straight out. They can change this leader out if they want to. And
the Chinese can.
Yeah, put another leader in there that clearly is aligned with them. He's a staunch communist, but he's not creating this kind of nightmare scenario. The Chinese do not want war on the Korean Peninsula. Their ambitions are enormous with this new president and his power. He wants to dominate not just the Pacific region, but he wants to replace the United States.
This is a big deal what you're saying there. You're saying that the Chinese can change out Kim Jong-un. And, you know, I've said all along, why don't we do that? Can't we do that? Shouldn't we do that? Maybe we don't have the ability, but they do.
I doubt we have it. And I'm not suggesting this would be easy, but clearly they have thought about it in their own meetings that they've had in terms of what options do we have here? Can we get to this guy and put somebody else in play there? I mean, they have a better sense of what is happening there, but they also have made the point to the president that, listen, while we have leverage, we also are challenged by this regime because of the closeness of the regime, the secrecy of the regime. They keep a lot from China. And so I understand that, but I still believe that's an option that's out there. Another option is out there, Trish, and when the regime is getting squeezed pretty bad internally, and they can see that it's potential for economic collapse, some of his own leaders may make that decision and say, look, we got to stop this.
You already saw
We're heading to a
right?
nightmare.